So this is part B of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, broadcasting under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions on Sunday, the 23rd of April 2023. This one is continuing the fact-based diagnosis of the corrupt Fleet Street, hyping up the thug culture that is the main foundation, facilitating the perpetuation of the corrupt regime in the United Kingdom. Fronted by Rishi Sunak and aided and abetted by the likes of Dominic Raab, whose thuggery has exceeded the limits of tolerance that could be sold as acceptable. And that is why the thug had to resign. But the fact that the thug has had to resign does not diminish the outrageous denial of duties that the thug Rab and the cabal that he has been part of, owe to the society, but have refused to deliver. Which is why Sunday newspapers today, the Telegraph, the Mail on Sunday, are continuing various ways of excuses that the thug Rab has made for his aggressive, corrupt, thuggish behavior. The piece in the Sunday Times today, Sunday Times, 23rd of April 2023, page 10, pages 10 and 11. Well, it's a take from the BBC series, Yes Minister, No Minister. And this one is saying, allies of Dominic Raab want civil servants disciplined for brutal briefings against him. And it says that at least 3 ministers that remain in Rishi Sunak's cabinet have been warned that they will be next. This is page 16, and let's check what the next page is saying, because yes, page 16 is the main part of the Tim Bishop's political commentary. Is the not Tim Bishop, it's Tim Shipman. And it says, Allies of Dominic Raab want civil servants disciplined for brutal briefings against him, and 3 cabinet members are being privately warned they may be next in the dock. Now, this is the same group of newspapers, the Times and the Sunday Times. The Times yesterday, Saturday, began the serialization of the so-called biography, political biography, apparently authored by Anthony Saldon, which has heavily been promoted by citing alleged information provided by Michael Gove to the effect that Boris Johnson was being undermined by Dominic Cummings during the height of the so-called crisis caused by the first spread of COVID in 2000. And apparently, in expressing his frustration at being cornered by Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson, according to Michael Gove, said that he was the Führer. He made the decisions. Now, here, the Tim Shipman piece, well, Tim Shipman is described as chief political commentator. Remember, we are talking about the man who was in the post called the Ministry of Justice. Now, as anyone watching this program, anyone reading our posts will, without any doubt, be aware of, our thesis is that there is no truth in the statement that there is a Justice Department in this country, in the United Kingdom. There is no Ministry of Justice, and there is no provision for justice in the UK courts bureaucracy. And the fact that these newspapers dedicating about 80% of the coverage, political coverage so-called, to the thug being annoyed that he has had to quit, should be seen in context against the almost total absence of any comment about the miscarriage, the deliberate misadministration of justice, the wanton obstruction to ordinary people accessing the services of the courts. And those who are able to access the courts are then treated with hostility based on ethnicity, race, and faith. And the newspapers don't publish any league tables or any kind of statistics showing or highlighting the evidence of ordinary people being denied access to the remedies that are supposedly available in the court system. The numerical majority of cases, disputes are brought before the magistrates' courts, where it is about crime and criminal prosecutions, and then the so-called district courts, where the civilian issues, called county courts, district courts called county courts. And there is no sign in either Tim Shipman's piece or in the rest of the Sunday Times today that either the newspapers or the thug that has been just ousted gave a shit about the total absence of access to justice, access to the court system. When access is available, it is only available after very costly in terms of time, energy, and resources. Access is only available through monumental efforts done by inciting. I'll say that again. Monumental efforts done by invoking the constitutionally available, nationally available sanction against the court system. So when it comes to the actual examination by the county court of the evidence against the particular part of the administration, let's say the departmental employee, wrongly called civil servants, such examination is never carried out or conducted objectively, truthfully, sympathetically, fairly, accountably, transparently. And it is not something that has been going on only recently. This is going on, has been going on throughout the whole of the, let's say, post Second World War period in the United Kingdom. So let's take the example of the what used to be called the Tower Hamlets Law Center. The Tower Hamlets Law Center was based in the Commercial Road at an address almost opposite the Watney Market. And the majority of the members of the Law Center's Management Committee were Bangladeshis. At one point, in a conversation in the community, somebody said to me, and they named the particular individual member of the Law Center's Management Committee. And they said that this individual interferes with ordinary people who communicate private information to the Law Center Management Committee in connection with various issues that they need help on. And this individual, who has nothing to do with the cases, looks at the private correspondence and where he thinks he can use that access. He then makes contact with the particular party or parties and abuses his access to the information to promote his agenda against or about those particular parties. Now, this was happening in the 1970s. And this was happening in the 1970s, well before the regime of the freedom of information, data protection, etc., came into being. But to me, these were central constitutional law items that needed to be very rigorously addressed and complied with. So I then approached this particular individual member, and the individual member was very, very outraged that I raised the issue. And as a result of his reading my communications against his interference, he challenged me in the street in New Road, and he said that he would make it very difficult for me to freely move about in the community. That was an aggravation. So I told him in front of other people witnessing the exchange in New Road that I would take action against him, which I did. I made an application under criminal law and prosecuted him, and the prosecution case was being heard at a place called the Thames Magistrates Court, which was situated at that time about 200 yards from the address of the law center. But when it came to the hearing, the magistrate, a white man, without any reason, unleashed a series of invectives and condemned my application to the court as being wrong, unjustified, and so on. So therefore, there was no real hearing. He would not hear the evidence. And he would not hear the case that existed against that particular member of the management committee of the law center. Not long after that, the same member of the Tower Hamlets Law Center was then involved in a very, very public dispute within the law center among members of the management committee. And allegations that I had made against him were nothing as compared to the allegations that were being made against him at this time by other members of the law center, management committee, etc., etc. And the law center, in effect, became dysfunctional, and it was disbanded, in effect, as a result of that. Now, this same individual was also, on a separate issue, found to have abused his employment with the Tower Hamlets Council, which employment he got solely because of his membership of the political party that was in power at the time. And there are serious allegations and complaints made against this same individual in their role as an employee in the council. And the allegations included sexual harassment and attempts to have sex with the woman who lived in the property that was part of the casework that this individual was involved in. This individual, therefore, was sacked. Now, these are only very small proportion of the cases that I have raised and I have investigated over the last few decades about the abuses of employment by individuals and the absence of real remedies, really, against the abuses and abusers. One of the things that actually remains unaltered is the corruption. Tower Hamlets is a corrupt council, and the majority of the employees that have been given the jobs, let's say during the period of Lutfur Rahman's incumbency from October 2010 until the 23rd of April 2015, these employee positions have been given solely because of the operation by Lutfur Rahman of a policy that has been pursued, which means that there is no requirements to check the suitability of the candidates, the moral integrity, or their ability to do the job that they are supposedly being employed for. So let's say more than 1,000 individuals have been employed in Tower Hamlets Council without any check. So if it is assumed that the one individual employee carries with them, that's about 10 cases every week, then thousands of cases are being handled by people who have no integrity and who are not accountable to any standard of audit or transparency or accountability. If these individuals are, let's say, examined in relation to the housing section, housing has allocation, housing has all aspects, not just housing. It has got all kinds of issues that have to be dealt with in order to meet the needs of the housing applications and applicants. If the individuals are then allowed to work without any real ethics, integrity, then thousands of housing applications can be and are being mishandled and have been mishandled. Now, the Ministry of Justice has not been covered by either the Sunday Times or the weekday newspapers by being shown to have played any role in supervising the county courts, the magistrates' courts, or the High Court, the Court of Appeal, or the Supreme Court in relation to the millions of cases that exist across the country, the United Kingdom, let's say, and millions of cases that are being suppressed concerning housing and concerning crime, concerning other things. Anyone reading the papers today, Sunday, or the weekend newspapers on Saturday, or the weekday newspapers, can check the truthfulness of what I'm saying and the veracity. And I've been checking the veracity and the truthfulness and the accuracy, what I've been saying in this particular bulletin. I've been doing this for decades. And there is no forum, neither in the Ministry of Justice or whatever it used to be called, or within the court's hierarchy, for auditing, examining the behavior of the decision-making members of the judiciary, which means that 99.9% of the crimes that are committed under the non-crime section, for example, in the housing allocations, etc., housing benefit and all that, the criminals who are in employment, in Tar Hamlets, let's say, making the wrong decisions, deliberately wrong decisions, the deliberately illegal, unlawful decisions, are allowed to get away. If by any chance these criminals' conduct is attempted to be raised for the judicial adjudication, then the judicial member of the judiciary comes in and obstructs such attempts. The two judges that I have mentioned in the past, in the Clerkenwell and Shoreditch County Court, one is Henrietta Manners, who has retired now, and the other one, Judith Goodman, who has also retired. Henrietta Manners was a district judge, and Judith Goodman was a deputy district judge. The role played by Judith Goodman, for example, which is typical, has been brazenly criminal in denying the access of evidence and her abuses of the particular person in litigation. So if there is a point reached of persistent abuses by member of the judiciary and the so-called complaints procedure is invoked, nothing happens. For example, one complaint was made against Judith Goodman, and the particular individual employee in post to deal with the complaints informed the complainant that Judith Goodman had resigned, contextually implying that Judith Goodman had resigned because of the complaint against her. When the complainant checked independently and found on the government website that Judith Goodman was very much in post, which meant that the individual post holder who had said that Judith Goodman had resigned had lied. So the complainant demanded from this individual an explanation as to why they had said that Deputy District Judge Judith Goodman had resigned when in fact she was still being shown as being active and actively in post as a Deputy District Judge. This individual post holder then became the hostile correspondence. Instead of answering, instead of explaining, instead of saying sorry for lying, he then looked for excuses with which to justify the unjustifiable. And all further communications sent to him or his post or the section that he was in place in were left unanswered by the other personnel. So this is representative of the reality of the criminality of the judiciary and the criminality of the bureaucracy in the Ministry of Justice that facilitates criminals being imposed as judges and criminals being complicit with the criminal judges, criminals imposed in the section that is supposed to be a section dealing with complaints against the criminally active judges. Now, the number of these people far exceeds the number that the Sunday papers are quoting Dominic Raab as mentioning as activist civil servants. Dominic Raab is only concerned about activist civil servants because allegedly they have been active in getting him to be forced out of his post. There is no mention in either his resignation letter or the response by Rishi Sunak to the resignation letter of the millions of people in the country, ordinary people in the United Kingdom, who are being systematically denied access to the service of the judiciary. So we shall be continuing on the judicial misconduct and corruption and criminality in the next editions. Here we are saying that the reason why the banner exists of Baby Angel Geronimo editions is because Baby Angel Geronimo is the witness, the central witness to the central criminality core of corruption, that is the Ministry of Justice, the judicial office holders. Baby Angel Geronimo is the most reliable, most extensive witness to the corruption and criminality of the UK central government departments, the post holder and the post of the Prime Minister, the post holder and the post of opposition leader, Keir Starmer, and leading members of the media who have lied and who have lied and who have lied, and there is no remedy. There is no remedy whatsoever against the lying and lies and the injustice. So we shall be continuing, and Baby Angel Geronimo will continue to provide the unique, impeccable, morally highest standard of witness and evidence.